we're going to look at a very important special case to do with factorising into two brackets that will really make your life a lot easier if you're aware of this. Now, this is called the difference of two squares. So let's look at it so that we can understand where that name comes from. So we've got the difference between these two parts, and we've got a square here, and we've got a square here. Okay, so the difference of two squares. So it's quite easy to spot and remember what it's all about. So we're aiming to end up, as we normally do, with a pair of brackets that it's factorised into. I'm going to do this first example as if we were doing it the normal way, and then on this second example I'll show and explain how, if you understand this, you don't need to really do workings out, it's more just writing it down. So we're going to start with our two brackets here, and to get our x squared we put x in the front of them both. The next thing we do is look at the number on the end and figure out what numbers multiply together to make that. So we've got 16 and 1, 8 and 2, and 4 and 4. So at this point what we normally now do is go and look at the x term in the middle to figure out which one of these we're going to use. Now there is no x term, but if it helps you to think about it, think of it as if there is an x term there, but it's 0. Okay, so we need to end up with adding or subtracting these numbers and getting 0, i.e. they cancel each other out. So the only way that's going to happen is if the two numbers are the same, except one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So we've got plus 4 minus 4. So let me just multiply that out so you see how this all works. So we've got x times x, which gives us x squared. X times minus 4, that's minus 4x. 4 times x is plus 4x, and plus 4 times minus 4 is going to give us the minus 16. And what you can see here is that minus 4 plus 4x, that's going to just disappear and give us what we started with. So rather than having to figure that out every time, it's worth just recognizing this as a special case and then understanding that you're going to get two brackets. So we'll do it on this one, where you're going to have the square root of this first bit in the front and the square root of the number or the part on the end at the end. So that's 9 squared, so we're going to have 9. And then 1 has to be positive and 1 has to be negative. So we're going to look at a couple more examples of this. So we're going to set up our two brackets. Now all we've got to do is figure out what's going in both brackets. So I'll do the easy bit if you like. So this 4 here is 2 squared. So at the back of each bracket we're going to have a 2. And we know that one's going to be plus and one's going to be minus. It doesn't matter which way round you put the signs. Now at the front we want the square root of all of this. So it's not just about the x part now, it's about the whole thing. So fortunately 9 is a square number. It's the square of 3. So we're going to go with 3x in the front of both of these. Yeah, 3x times 3x gives us 9x. So it's the square root of this plus or minus the square root of this, depending on which bracket you're in. So one more here, just a final example. So we've got a square number and a square letter, a square number and a square letter here. So let's tackle this one first. So this is going to be 4x when we square root it. So that's what we've got in the front. One will be plus, one will be minus. 36 is the square of 6. So we're going to have 6y here and 6y here. So it's a special case that's really worth the effort to remember and to be able to spot, because it is going to come up quite a few times.